Picture this, it's 2015. Samsung has been slapping screens on wrists for 2 years now. Pebble raised $20 million on Kickstarter. Google launched Android Wear a full year earlier. And Apple, the company that supposedly innovates, shows up late to a party that everyone else started. Every tech pundit on the planet called it a copycat move, a desperation play, a Tim Cook vanity project. But they were dead wrong. This wasn't a late entrance, this was a calculated assassination. Hello, I'm Todd Hagopian, the original Stagnation Assassin. Today, we're opening the vault on Apple's 2015 entry into the smartwatch market to see if this was a strategic slaughter or a stagnation suicide. Because when everyone's screaming first mover advantage, sometimes the last mover is the one who buries the competition. So let's take a look. The stagnation score. Let's talk about the pre-move landscape. I'm giving the smartwatch industry a stagnation score of 8 out of 10 for corporate cancer. Here's why. Every single player in this space was committing the same sin. They were building tech demos, not products. Samsung's Galaxy Gear, a brick on your wrist with a camera that nobody asked for. Android Wear, a notification mirror with the battery life of a flashlight in a horror movie. These companies were so obsessed with being first that they forgot to be functional. The entire industry was drowning in what I call premature proliferation, launching products that solve problems that nobody really had. That's textbook stagnation disguised as customer innovation. Let's do a tactical audit here. Now, here's where Apple earned its stripes. Let's run through the frameworks. First, the 70% rule. Apple did not wait for perfection. The first Apple Watch was far from flawless. It was actually slow. Third-party apps were clunky. The interface had a learning curve, but Apple understood something that paralyzed most corporations. Execution at speed beats perfection at a standstill. They shipped at 70% knowing that they could iterate. And iterate they did. Relentlessly, actually. Version after version until they owned the category. Second, the 80-20 matrix of profitability. While Samsung was cramming cameras and standalone cellular into their early watches, Apple identified the vital few use cases that mattered. Fitness tracking, notifications, and fashion. And that's it. They didn't try to replace your phone. They made your phone better. They killed the vampire features, and they fed the vital few. Third, and this was a masterclass, Orthodoxy Smashing Innovation. The sacred cow of the tech industry was first mover advantage. Every MBA textbook preaches it. Apple looked at that sacred cow, and they put a bullet in it. They watched the first movers stumble. They studied every failure. They cataloged every complaint, and then they entered with surgical precision. They also smashed the second orthodoxy that tech products should look like tech products. They hired the president of Yves Saint Laurent. They made a gold edition for $17,000. They turned a gadget into a fashion statement. That's not product development, that's psychological warfare. Let's look at the hindsight homicide, though. Even in victory, there's always a fatal flaw. Apple's hindsight homicide, they were too slow on health. The Apple Watch didn't get ECG capability until Series 4 in 2018, 3 years after the launch. They had the platform, they had the wrist real estate. They could have owned digital health revolution 2 years earlier and locked out every competitor before they even started. But that delay left the door open for Fitbit to own the health wearable narrative for years. Apple eventually kicked that door down, but they left money and market positioning on the table. So the verdict here, I'm giving Apple Watch 4 out of 5 kills, which is still a fantastic score. This was a masterclass in methodical market manipulation. They let everyone else bleed on the barbed wire of first mover failure, and they walked through the gap, and they conquered the category. By 2020, the Apple Watch revenue alone was bigger than the entire Swiss watch industry. Get that? Let that sink in. A product that copied everyone else now generates more revenue than centuries-old Swiss watchmakers combined. The only reason that this is not a perfect 5 is the health delay. You don't get full marks from Stagnation Assassin when you leave a flank exposed. So that's the Autopsy Assassins. If you want to learn how to weaponize these frameworks in your business, whether you're entering a market late, disrupting a category, or just trying to stop your bleeding, head to toddhagopian.com or stagnationassassins.com for the world's largest stagnation database. Grab your copy of The Unfair Advantage and make sure to continue to declare war on stagnation with us every single week.